So, not 24 hours after what one would consider the most heinous crime of 2017 so far, even though we're only 5 days into 2017, The Guardian, Jessica Valenti, to be more, specific, has decided to take out an article by the name of America, Don't Be Polite in the Face of Demagoguery. And yes, I will be tearing this article a new ass. That's why I have the no filter zone rating on here, so if some of you have very delicate ears, you're not going to want to hear what I want to say. And quite frankly, I don't give a shit. Roll the intro. She starts her article with a nice little anecdotal story about kids kicking their dad out of an apartment and how public shaming ran the kids out of the neighborhood to give you the feel for the beginning of this particular article. So yes, she's doubling down on all the shaming and crap. So let's go ahead and get started. As Americans continue to grapple with Donald Trump's presidential win, or as I like to put it, the crybabies who didn't get their way, it's a lesson we need to remember more than ever. There's nothing wrong with shaming people who have done shameful things. Therein lies the first problem. If the person is in fact guilty of what you're shaming them for, that should be up to the courts to decide. Public shaming is a misguided attempt at having the court of public opinion condemn a person without due cause or knowing all of the facts. I keep going back to people who have been falsely accused of crimes, sexual crimes more specifically. There have been several times where lives have been ruined due to mob mentality and the court of popular opinion having painted these poor souls as guilty without knowing the entire story. And this is a website with a few of the examples, and I'm just going to read you the first one. I'm just going to read you one example from this particular website. This is spikedonline.com. And then we're going to move on with the original article. Consider the case of 17-year-old Jay Cheshire. He was a sensitive teenager and prone to depression. A fellow teen accused him of raping her. Police interviewed him. He was devastated. He experienced bullying as a result of the claim. 2 weeks later, his accuser retracted the accusation. On July 3rd of last year, Cheshire was found hanging from a tree in a local park. But public shaming is a good thing. Bullying is an aspect of public shaming. It doesn't matter who the person is. Public shaming them can have repercussions, and this is one of the more dire repercussions. So let's go on with the original article. We've heard again and again that calling Trump enablers out for their bigotry is fruitless and wrong-headed because you're calling everybody bigots and not everybody is a bigot. This line of argument, which comes mostly from white men and minorities who voted for Trump and marginalized voices who voted for Trump, who have the privilege of seeing racism and sexism as a thought experiment rather than a destructive reality, says that identity politics hurt Democrats and that the election is proof that feminism lost. Racism and sexism, or the institutionalization of racism and sexism, does not exist anymore. There are strict laws in place to prevent this and punishments for those who break these laws. I'm not saying that racism and sexism does not exist on an individual level, but that is a whole different can of worms. The article goes on to say, by doing so, they are encouraging Americans to be polite in the face of demagoguery. Oop, I get to go to etymology.com.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Demagoguery, noun, 1855, see demagogue plus ERY. Demagogy, in the same sense, is from 1650s, from Greek demagogia, leadership of the people. So I guess she's afraid of being ruled by the people? I mean, we are a democratic republic after all, or is this just her butthurt showing because she didn't win the election and shit's not going her way? Next highlighted part. We're seeing pushback against calling people racist or sexist precisely because everyone understands these things to be shameful.
No. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. 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 Hell no. 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 I refuse. No. No.
No, they're getting pushed back because we're getting sick and tired of getting lumped under those titles in a general and all-inclusive sense. When you make generalizations about groups of people, you are only illustrating how much of a racist or a sexist you personally are. Next highlighted portion is they are desperate to prove their good person bona fides even as they support policies that are horrific. Let's look at some of these policies, shall we? Number 1. Strict screening for all people entering the U.S. to prevent terror attacks. This means the prevention of people immigrating to the United States that have failed very intensive background checks to make sure they don't have ties to ISIS or any other terror groups. Number 2, deporting illegal immigrants. This will lighten the burden on our economy and gives us more jobs by opening them up to legal immigrants and natural-born citizens. And number 3, making a universal health savings account and opening the markets of health care to force them to compete with each other, which would in turn lower health care costs for those of us across the United States. And those are just 3 things. I don't see a problem with those 3 things. I really don't, but apparently she has some sort of problem with it that she's really not explaining here. Next highlighted section. They know what they are doing is wrong, and it's our job to remind them of it. Translation. We think what they're doing is wrong, and we're going to continue to badger them knowing that what we're doing isn't working until it works. Pretty much a roundabout definition of insanity, if you ask me. Next highlighted section. We don't continually remind them. People dissolve into self-delusion. That's why people who are against same-sex marriage say they're simply traditional. She's attacking fundamentalist Christians here. Now, I do have a lot of issues with fundamentalist Christians because they tend to take the Bible word for word, and sometimes their interpretations can be a bit skewed. But these are the people that she's referring to. And then the next section goes to say, even the KKK now says they are not white supremacists. Now, a lot of people consider the KKK white supremacists, but I'm going to read a passage from an article where they were interviewed. And here's the passage. Still, KKK groups today typically renounce the term, meaning the term white supremacist. The same goes for extremists, including members of the self-proclaimed alt-right, an extreme branch of conservatism mixing racism, white nationalism, and populism. We are white separatists, just as Yahweh in the Bible told us to be. Separate yourself from other nations. Do not intermix and mongrelize your seed, said one of the Klansmen who spoke along the muddy lane. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions here, but historically they've always had this belief and they followed this particular tenet, which means they're racial purists, in my opinion, which doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as supremacy, but I'll leave that up to you. Alright, next highlighted section in the original text. But words like misogynist, racist, homophobe are not just accurate, they also have power. That's why we can't stop using them, whether in the media, in politics, or around the dinner table. The problem with words like misogynist, racist, and homophobe is they're being used in a generalized sense, and they're alienating people who are not either one of those 3 or any one of those 3. And the more you push this narrative and the more you double down, the less people are going to vote for Democrats in the next election or the next elections in the future. And yes, I said that as a plural on purpose. It is true that telling these uncomfortable truths may not result in people changing their politics, but there is no sense in appealing to the better natures of those who have shown themselves willing to stand with hate. They keep pushing this narrative of hate. They refuse to see that Trump is pro-LGBT and pro-women's rights. They refuse to see it because they keep slandering him in the public eye by twisting the words that he has said in the media. Next section. We can make clear that the country we want is unapologetically progressive. Correction, don't you mean regressive? We can refuse to normalize bigotry, shaming those who stand with Trump. Once again, we're being called bigots and racists. They love to double and triple down on this, and all it does is further infuriate us. And that's the end of the article. And in light of what happened to that poor boy in Chicago, this was an ill-timed, ill-scheduled article, in my opinion. This was not the time to schedule this to be posted to this particular news outlet, if you want to call it a news outlet. To me, The Guardian is not a reputable source of news. It is a blog to be scrutinized, in my opinion. When the night before is the perfect example of a hate crime, and no one in the mainstream media is calling the spade a spade, we have a problem in this country. And the problem is that the mainstream media continues to believe the narrative that black people can't be racist. And in light of this article, the mainstream media still believes and is willing to double and triple down on the fact that they believe that Trump is still a racist and a misogynist and a homophobic person that shouldn't be in office. They refuse to see the objective point of view, and more people are tuning off the television and going to social media to try and find what the real story is behind all the rhetoric. Thank you for watching this video. As always, I like to start a conversation, and that's what the comment section down below is for. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button and that little bell. Well, that little bell will let you know as soon as I upload a video. There are 2 videos to my left. You can choose which ones you want to see, and I hope you enjoy those as well. Please, if you really like the video, share the content and help me get my name out there. And I'm sure you've seen a little white circle with an eye in it. If you hit that card, you can either go to my Cafe Press shop and get some swag, or you can contribute to my Patreon to help me get better equipment, so I can actually come to you a little more often with a little better graphics, and I can actually do more research for better topics in the future. Again, thank you for coming, and to my fellow skeptics, shitlords, and lovers of words, believe nothing that you hear or see, but question everything.